Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Well, it started raining Sunday evening, and it rained overnight and all day Monday night. It rained this morning, and now our ponds and the ponds are full, the creek is running, and we are so blessed. Thursday and Friday we have more chances of rain, and we are hoping for those. I pray that some of you also received rain. Some of you that are in such in the same place that we're in, I hope and pray that you receive some much needed rains. And the cows are happy eating their hay bales, and we have had to start feeding hay. I've shared that with you. But from the rains last weekend that we received, rains today, there's some green grass out there, and I don't know how long it'll be before it goes totally dormant. Hopefully we'll, with the temperatures, it's been running in the 60s and 70s, and so sunny weather, good rains. Hopefully the grass will come on and we can kind of, let them have their grass and supplement them with hay and grain, and that it won't be a constant having to feed them hay from now through winter, because we only got the first cutting of hay this year off from the two different farms that we get our hay. We purchase our hay from. There was not a fall crop of hay, and so we're having to, we're going to have to really be careful, and we're going to have to pray a whole lot. Things like that can bring fear upon you, and that's what I wanted to kind of talk about with you today. We're all most parts of the country, you look around and all you see right now is Halloween decorations and scary things. And I grew up in a Halloween loving family. My mom loved to be scared. She loved to scare people. The scary movies, those were her favorites. Me, not so much. I was totally opposite. My sister has a big Halloween party every year, and she lives in another state. But if I lived next to her, I love her, but I probably wouldn't go to her parties because I don't like things jumping out at me or screaming at me or any of that kind of stuff. And she thrives on it. She got that from our mama. But things like I was just talking about with the hay and the water supply and all of those things, those are fears in our lives. So today I thought, with Halloween on the forefront, everybody getting ready to go trick or treating and all that stuff. Now we don't trick or treat. We have fall decorations, but we don't have the Halloween decorations. And Howie and I just didn't in our marriage. We don't like the feeling of being scared. Now Howie wasn't scared, but I was. Scary movies and those kind of things. And I don't like the way it makes me feel. We're not supposed to be people that dwell on fear. In fact, Scripture says that God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a strong mind. And so we didn't want to do anything that would introduce any kind of false fears in our lives. There are some healthy fears that, fear of equipment, or fear of chemicals, or things that can bring harm to us. That's a healthy fear. It's not a fear that we're dwelling on and we're wringing our hands and we're sweating bullets, and not that kind of fear. Just a healthy, I know that if these chemicals are mixed wrong, it can make us sick, or it could even kill us. Or if I don't operate this piece of machinery just the right way, I can tear it up, or I can harm myself or livestock or properties. That kind of fear, that kind of awareness is a good kind, because it keeps you alert, keeps you aware, keeps you on your toes. But the kind of fear that I wanted to talk about today, being a danger to us all, is an unhealthy fear. A fear that comes in and gets us worried about all kinds of things and gets our minds just so out there in left field on things that are unhealthy. Fear can be a powerful tool if we allow it to get a foothold in our lives. There's a lot of things that can happen if we allow fear to control. One of the things that can happen is fear causes us to really be kind of paralyzed, to be crippled in that fear that we can't sometimes even move. That we're so scared that we just shut everything in on ourselves, and we're afraid to go out and do the things that we know that we're supposed to be doing. Be about the Father's business. Be about the business of the day, taking care of our families. That fear can get in and cripple us so bad that we just don't do anything. Sometimes fear can make you act irrationally. It can be a fear of something that's just way out there in left field. It can be a fear, an unnatural fear of something that's very common, and it can cause us to act in a very irrational way. When my sister's children were little, her oldest daughter, she's the sweetest thing. When she was little, she was scared to death of needles. She was scared to death of if you had to remove a splinter, anything. This one particular time I was at their house, and she had gotten a splinter in her foot. And they had it took her mama and her daddy both, were trying their best to get this splinter out of her foot. And it needed to be done. She was afraid of it, but it needed to be done. It was something that was a needed thing. But she had an irrational fear of it. And because of that, she was flailing, and she was pulling her legs, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs. She was crying, and she was screaming for me, for Aunt Stacy to help her, that they were killing her. And all they were doing was trying to take the sting out and trying to take this thing that was going to get infected and way back when Howie and I first were married, we had an opportunity to adopt a little girl. And she was born on my sister's birthday, and we were at church, and we were going to go get her. The problem was, we lived in Arkansas, and she was born in Michigan. And everybody was like, yo, go get on. And as bad as I wanted to go get this little girl, the fear was there that I was going to have to get on an airplane and fly to Michigan to get her. Now, the adoption didn't happen. All of that fell through anyways. But the irrational fear of flying was there for me. There was this block. I've never been on an airplane in my life. I probably won't ever be on an airplane. But for some reason, I have this fear. And it just overtakes me to the point that sometimes I can hear a big jet fly over, and I just cringe for a second until it's over. Now, I'll tell you another irrational fear that I have, and you guys will probably think I'm totally off my rocker. But this summer with the drought, it's gotten so dry that the ground is really cracking open in a lot of places. Pretty good sized cracks. But I have this fear, and I've had it for a lot of years, of sinkholes. I've never seen a sinkhole. I have seen a well. We had a well at our house in Arkansas that they were trying to fill in. They had been the old homeowners they had passed away years ago, but they had tried to fill that old well in and just built rocks and bricks and old cement pieces and stuff. And that was still concave there in the yard over to our side yard. And how he told me what it was, he told me that it was an old well. Well, I had this fear of that thing, because you'd hear stories about big sinkholes, and I just knew that was a sinkhole. So I shared with Cheyenne about this crack in our yard. I said, I have this fear that crack is just going to open great big, and it's going to just suck the house in and everything else. It's an irrational fear for me. Cheyenne said, Mom, that's a crack. It's teeny tiny. So that's one of the irrational fears that I have. I have an irrational fear of sinkholes. Irrational fear, can steal our joy and it can steal our peace. When we're so afraid every day just to face the day, and we're held captive. When we're that afraid, when we have that kind of fear, that we're held captive day by day, not able to move, not able to do anything that we need to do in this life, fear wins. You know, when I sign off, at the end of all my videos, I try to remember to say, keep looking well to the ways of your household. If you live in fear, if you live in fear, and fear is stealing your joy and is stealing your peace, and it's keeping you immobile and it's keeping you captive, there's no way that you can look well to the ways of your household. There's no way that you can honestly prepare and thoroughly prepare and do all the things that you need to do to make sure that you have ample supply for your family. Fear will keep you from just getting the job done. Now, you guys know that I have taken tractor lessons. I need to continue my tractor lessons. And I have taken farm truck lessons, but I hadn't tried to take lessons moving hay bales with the hay spikes on the farm truck. I was scared of it. I was like, I can't. You have to back up and spear it, and then you have to get it up on the truck, and you have to move it to the pasture and cut the wrap off of it and lay it down in the pasture and give it to the cows. And I was scared to death of it. But the time came that I didn't have any other option, that I had to do that. The kids weren't here that day, and the hay had to be put out. And so the only thing that I could do was make an attempt. So I went out, nobody watching me, and I got in the farm truck, and I went on my way, and I got the hay loaded 2 different times. I got successfully loaded hay on the truck and got it out in the pasture, got it out to the cows. The next day, I decided that I would go out and put out hay. The kids were back home, but I thought, I'm going to go and put it out. And so I went, got the hay bale, and went along my merry way, and I dropped the hay bale off of the hay spike into the middle of the road. This was just the other day. And I backed up traffic. And I had to have help getting the hay bale out of the road, and I was so embarrassed. I was so mortified. But if I would have let that fear, after that I was going to do it again, drop a hay bale again, I would never get back out there and be able to put hay out in the field if the kids weren't able to. And so I had to make myself go get in the farm truck and go and put out hay. And I did it. I overcame that fear with the Lord's help. And sometimes we just have to say, I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let it cripple me to the point where I can't move and get the job done. Now, fear will try to turn off any work of faith in your life. Anything that you're doing, that you're having to step out and take a leap of faith, a step of faith. Fear works against that and does its best to whisper in your ear and say, you're going to fail. You're going to make a mess of things. People are going to laugh at you. People are going to say you're crazy because you have food stocked up. People are going to say you're crazy and you've lost it because you're growing a big garden and you have all this livestock and you're doing all these things. People are going to laugh at you if you do this or you do that. Fear is a mean thing, and it'll whisper lies and deceit in your ear. So you say, well, what can we do to overcome fear? Well, we can remember that the Lord told us that He did not give us a spirit of fear, What did He give us? He gave us power, love, and a sound mind. Those three things, with God's help, we can overcome fear. We can put our foot down and quit listening to the toxic stuff that's telling us to be fearful. If you have to turn the TV off and say, I'm not listening to it anymore because it just causes me to be fearful. Now, of course, we have to know what's going on in the world, what's going on around us. We need to know that. But we cannot just continuously feed on that. It's like those mysteries, the cop shows that you have to watch, and they like 48 Hours and all those different ones. And I used to really love those shows, but I began to start dreaming about them, and it messed with my peace. And so I had to step back and say, no more. You have to do that in your life. You have to say, no more. I'm not allowing it. The peace and the joy that I had at one time, I want to have that again. I want to be able to live my life knowing I'm preparing for my family, knowing that there are things that are fears that are real and true fears. Being sick is a fear. Losing a job is a fear. Losing a loved one, that's a fear. But we cannot allow the fear to reign in our lives. We must overcome the fear. And don't let ourselves be haunted by all of the things that the enemy whispers to us. We need to know who we are in the Lord and trust in Him. Get that peace and that joy. Be able to lay your head down on your pillow at night and sleep without a fear in the world. So until next time, guys, I hope that you'll just kind of push those ghosts and goblins and all that scary stuff aside. That you'll pay attention to the important things, and that you'll be aware of the things that are around you, but don't be scared. Prepare, have peace and joy. Till next time, guys, this is Josie. I love you. I really do. Keep looking well to the ways of your household. Until next time, we're going.